Welcome back to the Borne to Chat Shit podcast with your host, George Osborne and
Wicks, Dr. Wicks.
People don't know her fucking name half the time. Your girlfriend's name, but don't know her name. That's what I normally get. Anyway, we're back. We're back with another episode. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about self-development, journaling, how to start, what to do, all these sort of things. Vicky's going to start off with this because we've literally been debating for the last 10 minutes who's going to start what. So I'm going to let Vicky do the talking and then we're going to go with the flow of it. So Vicky, you start. What are we talking about? How's it going down today?
I actually just saw a quote on my phone and Mel Robbins posted it. And it was, someone is always going to doubt you. Don't let that person be yourself.
Nice.
And I thought that's a really nice way to start this actual episode because journaling is all about self-development. And I know a lot of people are going to be listening to this that are, you know, bodybuilders through and through. They're striving for the first placing, the sword, the pro card. And you're probably thinking like, I don't want any of this mindset bullshit. But we actually had a really good conversation this morning, George and I, over our coffee. And I said that I felt a little bit like lost, maybe all over the place, because I sometimes find myself chasing tangible goals. So chasing my pro card, chasing expansion of the business, chasing a new house, chasing this, chasing that. And the only time I've realized I've not been able to achieve my goals is when I stop working on actually focusing on the person that I should be and the person I need to become in order to achieve those goals. And that's what journaling is all about. So I've had countless of messages from my clients, from people on Instagram recently, because we've been showcasing our self-development journey a little bit more, you know, posting on Instagram, on our stories of our journals, how we journal, what we do every single morning. And honestly, my DMs have been flooded about it because a lot of people want to do it, but they just don't quite know where to start. For me personally, when I was first told to journal, it was actually when I went to therapy, when I went to rehab, and I was given a little notebook and my therapist said, write down your feelings. I went, fuck off, I'm not doing that. Because I was like, I opened up this book and I just didn't know what to do. Like I didn't even know how to name my feelings. But I actually started there. It took me absolutely ages to get into because I always thought it's for people that, I don't know, like English language, that like poetry and that like sitting down and writing. And I don't like any of those. Yeah, hippie people. And I didn't like any of those things. Like I didn't like writing. I hate handwriting. I had to do enough of it at uni and over exams. I don't like English. Like I never like writing essays. And I was very like lost with it. Only when I actually made it a routine and I said, do you know what, people doing it are actually happy people. I'll give it a go. Did I start to see the benefits of it? And when George was going through a really shit time last year, that's when I first introduced you to it. I was like, if you can't talk to me, talk to yourself. Yeah,
I have definitely given journaling a go probably 2 or 3 times now. The first 2 times I gave up after like a couple of days and thought, fuck this, I'm not doing this. And I've always had an opinion. I've always known about journaling and I've always seen people talk about it and do these sort of things. But I've always had a strong opinion about people who journal. And I've always thought they're weirdos. They're a bit hippie, they're a bit lost. And I started to realise, oh shit, you know what, I'm that person as well. I'm a bit lost especially, maybe not hippie. So when you started to introduce it to me, I was like, I don't see the benefits of this at all.
You were so hesitant.
And what I found myself doing is I was so on and off with it. I'd do it for a couple of days, I wouldn't do it for a couple of days. And then I started, obviously this time around, doing it every single day regardless.
So why did you do that?
Why did I do that?
Yeah, why were you on and off?
Because I really didn't want to do it. That was probably the reason.
Yeah, you didn't want to do it. You weren't doing it for the right reasons.
I weren't doing it for the right reasons. So I didn't want to do it realistically. So for me, a big one there was actually, you know what, I actually really want to do it and I'm doing it for the right reasons and I want to invest in and grow into those sort of things. And I put this on my Instagram story the other day. It took me literally around about 3 weeks to actually really start seeing it pay off. I've counted the days I'm doing. I think I'm like day 55 or 6 now of doing it. And it took me about 21 days to actually recognise what I'm doing here and getting a bit of a pattern of it. So these things do take time for me. And now I see it from a whole different element. Now it's a part of my ritual every single morning, regardless of how busy we are or whether things don't go to plan or whether we're rushing time. That'll always be like my non-negotiable, just like brushing teeth, having a shower, eating, or drinking water. So
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, come a long way when it comes to that aspect of things for sure.
Okay, so first let's talk about the reasons for journaling. Obviously, George and I have both shared our individual experiences as to why we first started. And I know a lot of people listening to this think it may be just for those who struggle, but I'm a big believer in whether you are going through a good phase in your life or a bad phase in your life, this is something that you should do. The reason for that, and I'm a prime example of it, sometimes I'll go through phases where I appear okay, don't I? I appear absolutely fine. I've got everything together. I'm productive. I do everything. I'm good. But then there comes a day where it will literally click for me and I reach a breaking point. And journaling allows you to dive into a very deep sense of self-awareness. So I have noticed in myself when I struggle to write down how I am feeling in my journal, that is me brushing a lot of feelings under the carpet, and it's something that I need to address. So yeah, let's just dive into the reasons. So first reason why you may want to journal is because you are going through a tough time and you struggle speaking to people. Sometimes when you struggle to speak to people, it's easier to write things down and keep them within yourself. But
that's me.
Yeah, at least you let it go. You know, you don't hold it within you. You write them down.
I struggle massively talking to you or talking to people about my feelings because I've never known how to growing up as a child. My parents didn't really show me how to communicate. So writing things down actually allows me to express myself in a way. So that's one of the reasons I actually do it when I think about it.
Yeah. And then the second reason, which I've just touched on, for me, it's picking up patterns within myself, because we're all creatures of habit. We've all got coping mechanisms of some way, shape or form. And for me personally, I don't talk about problems, and especially when I don't know how I feel and I've got two feelings, which are either I'm angry or I'm sad and there's nothing else. That's when I know there's an underlying issue that I need to maybe address or figure out the root cause of. For example, I've been very flat the last sort of 2 weeks, and I've said to George, I was like, I can't write in my journal. Like, I just don't know what it is. Like, I don't know how I'm feeling. And George said to me, like, maybe that's not a bad thing, but I know myself at this point so much where I was like, no, me not being able to say my feelings means I'm hiding them deep inside because there is a fear of something. And I've come to terms over the weekend what that sort of was, and I've been able to address it. So another one is, if you notice yourself go through phases of high highs and low lows, because that's pretty much me. I'm like this very often, or I used to be anyway. Journaling allows you to pick that apart. The other thing as well that I find journaling is really useful for is goal setting, and actually being able to look back on those goals and whether you are consistent with whether your actions are consistent with your words. So one of the things I very often do, you know, at the start of the month, at the start of the year, is I will actually write down my goals for the year, and then I'll look back on them in a couple of months' time and say, have I done this? So again, I've got that on a piece of paper. And if you're an athlete, or you are very career driven, or you are just someone that's got very high ambitions and goals, like I said right at the start, you need to start becoming the person capable of achieving those goals before you actually chase them. And yeah, journaling is a form of self-development. Ultimately, it's just one of the forms. There are many different things that I would just recommend you to do. So point number 2, how do we journal? Do you want to start off with this one?
I think first of all, setting the scene, setting the environment is key. Mornings, lo-fi, we put like a Bart Simpson lo-fi chill mix on. We've got those incense as well, little incense on to get the smell, get the vibe going. And then we use, again, you know, I use something called Mind Journal, which is meant to be designed for men, but it's not really. Would you say from your experience?
I don't think it's designed for men.
It's not designed for men. There are some sections of what is a definition of a man to you, but at the same time, like, that's the only thing that I've noticed. I think females can do it as well. But I use something called Mind Journal, and they've got like a beginner sort of process which takes you through it, and then they've got like a pro one as well. But you don't need to have those sort of things. Like, they are like 40 quid a go. That's quite expensive for a book. You can literally just do it on a piece of paper. You do it in a what do you do yours in? Like a little notebook, don't you? So you don't necessarily need it. I found I sort of struggled when I started, so that's why I got the book, because it gave me like a direction to go with. But you was pretty good in terms of just going into that aspect of things. And I can't remember the question now. What the fuck?
just went off on a tangent.
Just went off a right
so point
tangent.
number 1 is set the scene. So how to journal. Set the scene. Make sure you're in like a peaceful environment where you've got no distractions. So don't have your phone pinging. Don't have your WhatsApp business on. Don't look at work. Don't be around a dog that's breathing heavy or barking. Like if you're like me, I'm very overstimulated easily. I literally just had to take Diesel out actually because he was breathing too loud for me to actually focus.
I've had some comments in the past about his breathing in this podcast and people can't listen to it. But anyway.
Yeah, I can't listen to it at the moment.
Yeah, I can't.
But yeah, just set the scene of what's right for you. I've got a little like sofa chair in my office. I cover myself with a blanket, put a candle on, put some incense on, lo-fi, great. So 1, set the scene. 2, you've actually touched upon it. Have something to journal in, whether it's more of a guided thing like the mind journal. I don't know any other ones. There might be something coming out very soon.
Yeah,
nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Stay tuned for that one. But something that's guided, or just a nice little notebook that you can keep safe. I remember when I was younger, actually. Sorry, this is completely off topic, but I used to have. I don't know if you ever had it. It was like a diary with a little lock. You can get those, no one sees it, but just don't lose the key, because once I lost the key and I've never been able to open that since.
Brilliant. Doesn't surprise me with yourself, to be honest with you.
Nope.
You can look at also, like, some people don't like writing. I like writing because I think writing's a skill, and if I didn't write in my journal, I'd probably never ever write ever again, to be honest with you. So I like trying to practice that skill of writing, as stupid as it sounds. And I also appreciate writing things more than just, like, for example, if I'm on my phone, notification comes through, I'm fucking gone. Like, I'm already looking through that like message or notification that's coming through, so I'm not actually fully in it. But again, there are probably apps I can imagine out there.
There are apps, yeah, you can use
your notes
those.
on your phone as well is another thing that you can use. You know, you don't need to necessarily write things down. It's whatever feels comfortable for you and actually allows you to do what you need to do with the actual journal itself. So there's not a wrong or right way of doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's point number 3. There is no right or wrong way to journal. So what we're going to talk about is what helps us personally, or what I have seen works, but there's no right or wrong way. Like if you are someone that likes to draw on a particular day to express your emotions, fucking draw. If you like to do mind maps, do mind maps. If you like bullet points, do bullet points. Because the thing that used to really hold me back from journaling was the fact that I didn't like writing, I didn't like essays, and I thought I'd had to sit down and be like, dear diary, today I sat down on a chair and smelt this. Like that's not me. Like I can't do that. So I'm very like boop 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 boop. Like I need bullet points. So sometimes I bullet point, sometimes I squiggle, sometimes I'll do like a mind map. I just express myself how I want to on that given day. Sometimes it'll just be like, don't want to fucking talk. That's literally all I'll write. And then I'll come back to it and be like, right, okay, how are we going to talk? How are we going to change this to a positive? So yeah, just know that it's a form of expression for yourself and there's no right or wrong. The next point I would say, do you want to say something?
I was going to say with that, like also as well, like time of day, there's no like, because I just thought about you saying you come back to it. Like we do it in the morning, like there is no like perfect time of the day to do it. You can do it in the morning, you could do it fucking in the afternoon, you can do it before you go to bed.
You can do both.
You can do both. Sometimes I've done that. I've done in the morning, I've gone, oh, you know what, I've not actually wrote as much as what I would like here. I'll come back in the evening and write.
Or you've lacked that self-awareness.
Yeah, or I've lacked the self-awareness and I maybe spoke to you throughout the day about it and then I've come back to it to then learn and then put it on a piece of paper. So there's no perfect. I think so many people want it to be perfect for them to start something. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just start. Just fucking start.
Just start.
Just start. And even if it's just an absolute mess on the first page, it's better than doing absolutely nothing and having it in your fucking head 24/7.
And understand that you actually having it perfect is probably the issue, and it's probably the reason why you need to journal, because we're not meant to be perfect. It's literally about trial and error. The next thing is, like the contents of it, they matter to a certain extent of like, we want there to be self-awareness, but it doesn't matter whether your handwriting's nice. It doesn't matter whether your spelling is correct. It only needs to make sense to you. Like sometimes I'll use abbreviations. I'll even go back to those abbreviations. I won't know what I meant, but I knew what I meant at the time, and that's just the main thing. So there's no right or wrong way to sort of make it look. If you want to make it look pretty and have different colours and put stickers on there, be my guest, but that's not for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, just fucking start. That's a simple thing. Just start regardless of what it is, and you may find over time it may evolve or change into a certain way which works for you. Sometimes that comes naturally, sometimes doesn't. Whatever. That's how I would say it. So what do you start off with writing in your journal? Where do you start?
Okay, so this is point number 3, which is the contents of the journaling, because this is where people tend to get a little bit lost, in my opinion. Like, I don't know what to write. Mine personally changes from day to day, so what I'm going to describe is a little bit more structure to it. The first thing that I would always put down is your feelings, and like actually understand what feelings are. Like, yeah, okay, pissed off is maybe a feeling, but very often, like, you used to be terrible at this. You used to completely confuse thoughts and feelings. Feeling is like an emotion that you are experiencing in that given moment, and your thoughts are something that lead to that particular emotion that you can change. Feelings maybe you can't necessarily change because they're based off trauma, response, etc., but the thoughts associated with it can change. So feelings, George has got the guided journal that's got loads of different feelings. So this is particularly good for people that initially struggle to talk about them. I used to be like that, so I needed to tick things off. I actually had a list. It was like an A4 list of different feelings because I didn't even know which ones existed, and I would like transcribe every single day. I'm like, oh, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I do feel like that. It's quite good and guided. I'm at the point where I know all of the different feelings, very in tune with myself, so I'll just write them down in bullet points.
I was going to say, literally, in terms of that, like some of the feelings that I write down, like on some of the categories that I've got, actually remind me that I should be feeling those certain feelings. Like one, for example, grateful. Like sometimes when you think about feelings, you think all like sad, emotional, whatever it may be, you know, overwhelmed, whatever it may be. Then actually you start to realize, oh shit, actually, you know, sometimes there are actually good feelings as well, despite it sometimes feeling like it's a negative situation.
Yeah.
So that's what it's really good for. So
yeah.
Sorry,
the next one, that's fine. That's fine.
I interrupted then.
The next one that I write down is thoughts. So this is where I have feelings. Okay, I'm feeling angry. Okay, what are my thoughts? Like, what is actually going through my head? And this is where I write down things like my anxieties, my worries, my concerns, anything that's wound me up, anything that I'm carrying on from the previous day, and try and almost like negotiate with myself. What is it that's causing me to feel that certain way? Because I used to just be like, I'm sad. And my parents are like, why are you sad? I'm like, I don't know. But there's always, well, not always, but majority of the time there's a reason why. There's a trigger or there's something going on. And then what I will do is, after I've done my whole journaling, I will come back to this thought section and I will always try and make it into something positive. So let's use an example that I've actually done this week, real life example, let's be raw and honest. Feelings: disappointed, sad, judgmental, deflated, upset. That's how I felt. And then my thoughts are, I don't compare to other wellness girls. I am not as successful as what I think I am. Can you notice how none of these are facts? All of these are opinions, but they are my thoughts. I am made for nothing. All of these things, I'm unloved. Like, all of these feelings I felt this week. So what I will do is I'll come back to them and I will speak to my quote unquote inner child. This is inner child work. Or I will do something like, I don't know, give an advice. If my sister wrote these down, how would I give her advice? Or if I had a daughter, how would I give her advice right now? And I will always flip it to something more positive. So instead of saying I am an absolute terrible wellness girl, I will say to myself, I am working really hard every single day to be an incredible wellness athlete, and I execute myself as such, blah, 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 blah. So I'll always change it to something that's going to not be more positive and sunshine and rainbows and fairies and godmothers, whatever. It'll be something that's constructive for me to work with, to flip my mindset. So my feelings aren't focusing on how awful I am. It's actually focusing on how much work I'm doing and how proud of myself I should be despite the adversity that I do face in my day-to-day life. So thoughts, and if they are negative, try and flip them to something more positive. What
I write in my journal is intentions and achievements. So usually what I typically do is write 2 intentions and 1 achievement myself. But you can do all achievements or all intentions if you want. There's no way or wrong or right way of doing it. So intentions are going to be like, what am I going to be doing today? Whether that's with work, whether that's with myself and my own development, whether it's just recognizing something that I've done over the last couple of days and taking action, whatever it may be in terms of the intention that you've got. And the achievements usually would be, I normally try and look at last 24 hours, but again, it could be the last week, it could be the last couple of days, it could be just with what you've done so far in that day. And just remind yourself that there are, again, some wins that you always will. And this is what we actually try and do with clients as well, is actually get them to say their wins of the week and at least come up with 3. And some people sit there and go, I can't really think of 3, but then we actually start going through their check-ins and actually go, well, I've literally told you about 10 there, mate, that you can follow. So something that you can try and teach yourself is just tell yourself some wins and some of the achievements that you've had. And it could be something very little, like I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, or it could be something massive that you've tried to accomplish for the last year or so. You know, it could be very, very small. And I think sometimes people have a lot of opinions on achievements and are like, well, achievement isn't getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but it could be for you. It could be that you followed your meal plan for a day.
It could be that you drank your water for the day.
It could be you drank your water, for the day. It could have been you got your 10,000 steps in, you know. You sometimes look at that and go, that's not really cheap, I should be doing this, but it is for you. And that's something you need to remind yourself of, is that you're in the process of actually doing something really good. And if you keep going, you'll get potentially where you need to be. So yeah, achievements is something that I want you to remind yourself of, because you have come far, regardless of how small it actually is in your head. You have come far and you're taking the steps forward to wherever you need to be. I think I'm literally just repeating myself then, but you get what I mean.
The next one is gratitude journaling. So things that you are grateful for. Mm-hmm. This is so important, because when you sit down and you actually preach gratitude, there is no room for negativity in your head. And what I try and do is really hard, but I try and do it, is when there is a negative situation, I hate saying bad and good, but negative situation within my life, I try and flip it to something that is positive. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, you get stuck in traffic, you know, and you're like, oh my God, why is there so much traffic? How can you be grateful for that? And I saw that because I saw it in a book once, and there was a guy actually, this was a real life story. He was stuck in traffic, late for a meeting, and he was cussing left, right and centre. He was like, I'm going to be late, my boss is going to kill me. And then as he drove, you know, another like 300, 400 meters, there was a huge car crash with loads of cars and loads of ambulances, and on the news loads of people died within that crash. And he was like, actually, do you know what, if I was ahead of the traffic and I was on, quote unquote, on time, I could have been involved in that. I am grateful that life is working out for me. And I know that sounds really stupid, but I always try and do that. So if George annoys me, I will try and find a way that I'm grateful for, obviously, the relation. No, I know that sounds really funny, but I will always, I don't know, say we have a little bit of a bicker. I will sit down and be like, I am so grateful that George woke up this morning and he prepped my intra workout. You know, I am so grateful to be sharing my passion with someone that's equally as enthusiastic about the sport as I am. So little tiny things like that, dogs barking, diesel breathing is annoying me right now. But I will be like, I am so grateful. I have such a big dog with a big presence that provides me loads of cuddles. Get where I'm coming from? Gratitude journey. There's always something to be grateful for.
And I had a guy message me the other day actually, and he was sort of like actually asking about, I put the same stuff every single day, and he felt like he had to put maybe more things or different things each day. But I messaged him back and I actually said to